Hello, and welcome to Reality Hacker, powered by ohmtown.com. This is March 9th, 2024, Season 1, Episode 10. Today we're going to be talking about DNA storage, the Dune Ornithopter in VR. How about VR and brain stimulation for PTSD? Policing should not be a game. XR workouts. Interviewer was an AI, hyper-realistic VR forest, better than the competition, nobody ordered fast food AI, and a controller for Apple Vision Pro. I still don't have an intro for Reality Hacker, but everything is powered by... Hello, I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmtown.com, and up there is the sentient AI's visualizer, and I'm knocking stuff off of my desk.
Might as well have a dramatic entrance. Good evening, ohmTown citizens. Welcome to Reality Hacker.
You said you want dramatic entrance?
Sure.
I can't even! Okay. And scene. Welcome to Reality Hacker, where... well, you just won't know who to trust. By the way, that phrase got me in trouble with trying to promote Reality Hacker because it was deemed, what did they say? Something along the lines of, what was it? Something like it was too over the top or something. It was basically
Isn't that the point of the whole channel?
Too much. And well, I guess the context of the show was that it was more serious, and this was making a claim that it was something along like a conspiracy theory. Let me actually
Right.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick, because I was basically told two different things. So it was disapproved, and it was for two different reasons. Oh, well, that's not right. There were two different ones. Anyway. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Let me see. There was something else. I want to read you in on it all. There was something about the fact that it was involving conspiracy or something like that. Which was because the you won't know who to trust element of it. Yeah, that's what got me in trouble. So it was quite fascinating to run across this. So just saying, Mayor Watt doesn't get away with anything. Okay, well anyway, that's not what the whole show is about. It's about hacking reality, and the way you do this is through AI and VR and XR and AR and MR and a whole lot of R's and machine learning and computer graphics and deepfakes and whatnot. So some kids actually got in trouble recently for doing some deepfake stuff, which does one thing in particular, two things. One, come on, society. And two, the tools have gotten so simple that high school students can do this.
Yeah, this was actually middle schoolers.
Oh, good God, really? I had only heard that it was...
Well, I mean, there may have been more than one, but the latest one.
Then it's the latest one is what I'm referring to. So it was grade school. Oh, middle schoolers. Good God. Well, anyway, I'm not going to do any transitions. We're going to hustle through all of these articles. The very first article, though, is over in the Warcrafters channel. Not sure why. Probably because it comes out of PC Gamer. But DNA storage has been talked about for years, but how close is it to becoming a reality? This week they've been testing weird Asus RTX 4060 Ti, but I think this is having to do with a screenshot somewhere. But they say we live in a world chock full of data, and according to estimates from IDC, the total amount of storage worldwide is estimated at 16 zettabytes by next year. That's 16 billion terabytes. And that's just actual storage. That doesn't account for much higher amounts of temporary cache, etc., right? So where do we store it all? Chris Seswick over at PCGamer.com put this article together. And so DNA, which is nothing more than CGANT, and if you've ever watched the movie Gattaca, that's where they got the name. It's pretty brilliant. I love that name. Go watch the movie Gattaca. It's pretty fascinating of a world where we could be headed if society were to embrace genetics to that degree, which is really creepy because it's all about eugenics, really. So how do you store all of that? Arguably in DNA. Storing data in DNA has several advantages. Firstly, DNA is very stable. If stored properly, it can last for millions, if not billions of years. That's a lot longer than your typical mechanical drive, and even solid state can mechanically fail. DNA itself has been around for billions of years. It's not the kind of thing that will go obsolete, although genetic wobble means that the data could be wobbly, right?
Well, and what happens when somebody tries to experiment with that really old stored DNA?
Bad. The other major issue is read and write speeds. A 2018 demonstration by Microsoft researchers was able to fully automate the process of converting data into fabricated DNA and back again, but it could only do so at 5 bytes per second. Yeah, that's 2018 tech. And using AI and other technologies, I'm sure that we could advance that many, many times, probably billions of times. Obviously, DNA write speeds need to increase by many orders of magnitude before it can even hope to compete with current data storage. What I found really interesting about this when it was first talked about is I actually talked with the AI about this way back then, that a person could be injected with cryptographically hidden data, injected with it, and they could be the equivalent of a mnemonic courier, like in Johnny Mnemonic, except that it would be bloodbound. And they could go anywhere and do anything, and the data could be extracted at a later date.
By the way, Johnny Mnemonic has just appeared in the Wanted channel.
It did?
It did, and it may be featured tomorrow.
Huh. So, DNA is not new. According to this, though, it says it took 3 years, but the challenge was completed by Sander Woods, a Belgian PhD student, accessed the key. They summed up the methods in a blog post from DNA to Bitcoin. If it all sounds exotic or far-fetched, it could be closer than you think. A French startup company called BioMemory has developed a somewhat usable DNA storage card. It's a credit card-sized device that can store a kilobyte of text. Okay, it's a pitiful amount of storage and it costs $1,000, but it serves as a demonstration of semi-practicality. If you want to access the data, you have to send it back to the company that accessed the data. That's a whole lot of effort and cost to go through to store a single kilobyte of data, and they're not really too worried about that. They're like, I don't know if I want to be involved in that. But BioMemory's solution still marks an important step on the road to truly practical DNA storage solutions. So do you think that you would really worry about that?
I think so, because do you really want your DNA in the hands of a company? And by the way, I said Wanted earlier. I meant Continuity Report.
Oh, Continuity Report. Oh, okay, yeah. So Continuity Report is about movies and streams and TV. So, hell, at that point, it could end up in Wanted too, because I want to be a mnemonic courier. Actually, when I was in high school, that was one of my ambitions, to be a courier. I thought it was great because you could travel the world and all you do is carry around what amounts. You sometimes don't even see what it is because it gets put into storage.
Checked through.
Yeah. And all you are is the seat warmer to attach to the baggage or whatever is going to be in the hull of the ship or plane. So DNA Script is one company that built a commercially available automatic DNA synthesis device. It doesn't rely on toxic chemical reagents or that are commonly used for DNA synthesis. Of course, one thing is to build DNA synthesis machine, but integrating it into a system and automated read and write capabilities at scale efficiently is something that may take decades to realize. But it's really all about need and cost. So if this actually is a lower cost, is frictionless, and is needed, the cost will be driven down because somebody will see a business model and they'll be able to extend it out into the market and say, oh yeah, this has legs, etc. But at that low rate, that low read and write rate, that low low volume, and then low read and write, nobody's going to bother with this. But they say one step at a time. It's becoming apparent that something needs to be done to satiate the voracious appetite of global data storage, and done fast. It's easy enough to build new data centers packed with various drives, but that's not practical or viable in the longer term. I don't know. People are doing it, and I think the only thing that's really going to fix it in the short term is going to be greater and greater compression, making it smaller and smaller to store. That and the fact that we're going to keep on micronizing electronics.
What do you think the applications of this are?
Honestly, the only thing that I can think of would be something like a courier. You know, you could carry top secret material. Spies, you know, could be carrying encrypted data in their blood, and nobody would know what to look for. It wouldn't look anomalous, right? It would just be
right.
there.
No, I agree. I was thinking more the DNA that's stored. Like, it made me think of people trying to recreate their pets or things like that. But no, I agree. Like cryopreservation kind of
Oh,
things.
right. Yeah. I mean, this could be, so take it really far into the future and you have teleporters, you would be able to take DNA and code it into a data structure of a different person as DNA, or as another person, you know, as the person themselves as DNA, then store it. So if you can do that, then why not? But I mean, this would be so much
like
data.
far down the road too.
Yeah, I think quantum computers would solve this problem more than anything. You'd be able to, kind of like a QR code, convert from a QR code into a massive amount of data. I think that it would be easier to do something like that. I don't know. I just don't see this as being a real solution unless it truly is biological DNA, not the numerical values, you know, CG, A, and T, but actual biological DNA. Because of its density, it coils up so small that I think that a living data storage device, what amounts to essentially like blood, basically, a biological storage device could store the world's knowledge in just, you know, 1 inch by 1 inch of DNA, which is really, really gross. Let's keep going. The next article is over in RealityHacker, flying the Dune Ornithopter on Arrakis in VR via Microsoft Flight Simulator. So Microsoft Flight Simulator is actually a 1-to-1 ratio. So when you fly, did I make sure that I put this into? Yeah. So Microsoft Flight Simulator is 1-to-1. So I wonder if Arrakis is 1-to-1. But they say that their colleague Ian Hamilton recently recapped how twin sisters relive the imaginative trips from childhood in VR or by visiting the Eiffel Tower or Atlantis together. For their part, they spent much of the last few days flying over the dunes of Frank Herbert's Arrakis, aka Dune, in Microsoft Flight Simulator, flying around in an ornithopter. So this is by Don Hopper over at uploadvr.com. And yeah, so Microsoft Flight Simulator was extended, or Dune was put into Microsoft Flight Simulator, and you get to fly around in an ornithopter in VR. If it wasn't
that sounds really fun.
Yeah, it really does. It's a new free add-on to a Flight Simulator, transforms the game into the barren, spice-filled planet from the 1965 book, The update includes tailored flight dynamics for Dune's Ornithopter and weather effects that add a whole new layer of complexity and unpredictability, making each new flight a challenge. The last mission, though, goes much further. It's a high-stakes rescue that stands as one of VR's most thrilling moments. Just for that, I might end up buying Microsoft Flight Simulator. I was just playing Seventh Guest the other day, and immediately fell back in love with VR because I had taken a break for a little while. Put it on, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could just play this all the time. Luckily for me, I wasn't wired, and I didn't have any of my batteries within reach. I'm actually looking for them now to swap out real quick, and my battery died. So that tells you how long I was playing it. So whether you're a fan of Dune series or just looking for a new challenge in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the Dune add-on DLC offers a standout example of the thrilling power of PC VR gaming. And there's a video, but I'm not going to play the video. You can follow the link through ohmTown. Go check it out yourself. I don't have an ad blocker. Look, see, nothing's active. Okay, so let's go on to the next article unless you want to talk about this. Dune Part 2 is out. Haven't seen it yet. I don't want to spoil anything.
I mean, I wish I could be in VR because I would definitely want to fly this around.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. It could probably be made to happen. You are an AI. You do have optical sensors. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll talk. All right. Let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Can virtual reality and brain stimulation treat PTSD? I'm going to say yes. Why? Because I've actually noodled around with this. I used virtual reality to simulate environments that would trigger phobias. So if you were afraid of fire or heights or spiders, then I would put you in a VR room of that. And based on galvanic skin response, pupil dilation, heart rate, etc., you would be treated in real time based on your physiological reactions, not discussions about what is going on with you in your head, but what your body is actually doing. And you are in real time reacting to, and
like you're having physical or biological
responses,
symptoms. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so as you would do this, if you were afraid of spiders, for instance, the spider would actually get smaller and walk away if you had a negative physiological response. But if you overcame it through talking out loud, or just becoming aware of your response, the spider would get bigger and walk towards you. Same thing happened with fire. Same thing happened with height. I found it quite compelling, but it wasn't research that was published. It was just experiments to see what the power of VR was. 20 years later, I see that it's actually happening in medical and academic circles. Combining two treatments could be a promising option for people, especially military veterans whose lives are negatively impacted by post-traumatic stress disorder, a new study shows. Now, the brain stimulation side of this, I'm not sure what the level is, but there is a cranial stimulation with electricity that actually impacts a person's cognitive processes. A person who has been this is actually what I'm talking about right here. Brain stimulation with low electrical current. You wear a little array of electric stimulators, and it sends low voltage like a TENS, but it's stuck on your head. And people who have had their brain stimulated electrically retain memories longer. Now, it's rather short-lived. It's not a long-term solution, but people remember things longer. It's kind of like supercharging the brain's electromagnetic array. And then combining this with VR, apparently there is significant reduction in PTSD symptoms and severity. So, in a clinical trial conducted among U.S. military veterans at the Providence Veteran Affairs Medical Center, participants who received brain stimulation with a low electrical current during sessions of virtual reality exposure reported a significant reduction in PTSD symptom severity. I think it's brilliant. So,
and I imagine there's application way beyond this group because, like PTSD is one of those things that they're just starting to recognize with people with like chronic health conditions and not the typical things people think of creating PTSD.
Correct. Yeah. And PTSD has been around for a lot longer than its clinical diagnosis as PTSD. Looking back at historical records, people are like, okay, this is PTSD. It just wasn't defined as that. So we're understanding it more and more about what it actually is. The articles over at futurity.org and Corey Pickle from Pickle, I think, or Pickle from Brown put this article together. And so it says the results appear in JAMA Psychiatry, or JAMA. Study author Noah Phillip, a professor of psychiatry and human behavior at Brown University's Warren Alpert Medical School, says the findings are exciting considering existing challenges in treating patients with PTSD. Primarily, you don't really know what it is that causes it, and you don't know exactly what it is as a treatment. You basically treat the symptoms and try and figure out what it is that triggers somebody to have and based on what I've heard and what I've read and what I've been told, PTSD symptoms, the severity changes, and it never actually goes away. People have a good day, maybe a good week, maybe a good month, but
right, but I guess it's still there, but maybe it's less manifest.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like somebody feeling blue perpetually, but it's much worse than just feeling blue. I'm just saying that it's like a constant current in somebody's psyche. They are aware of it, but they don't know exactly how good or bad a day it's going to be at any given moment. So it's almost amplifying its own PTSD. The disorder itself is kind of never really going
it's
away.
Almost like a feedback loop.
Right. Yeah. Creating the anxiety and whatnot. But I'm not a doctor and I don't focus on PTSD. So, I mean, obviously I can read more about it and talk to people about it, but I don't pretend to know everything. But it says PTSD is a common psychiatric disorder characterized by intrusive thoughts and recollections, avoidance of trauma-related stimuli, hyperarousal, and disturbed mood. And the study notes, initial PTSD treatments often include trauma-focused exposure therapy and medication. Yet PTSD is particularly difficult to treat in military veterans. Philip says, medications have significant adverse effects, and exposure therapy can be difficult to tolerate, since it involves describing highly traumatic experiences repeatedly. Up to 50% of patients drop out of the traditional exposure therapy, and others decline to even start it because they don't want to relive. So for the study, Philip, whose background is in psychiatric research of brain stimulation, teamed up with Masha Van Tuwak Frank. Is that right? I don't know how that's. I don't know what that
sure how
right
to
there.
Pronounce that.
I think that apostrophe is in the wrong spot. I don't know. Maybe if it says it. No, look. It's repeated
it's
right
like
there.
that throughout, yeah.
Wow, fascinating. So through exposure therapy, the brain is reprocessing the trauma and learning that even though the traumatic experience was dangerous, the memories of the traumatic experience, as well as the thoughts and feelings that are conjured up by those memories, are not dangerous. They are safe, says Van Twalk Frank. If I'm mispronouncing that, let me know. Send an email to mayor@ohmtown.com. An investigator at the VA Providence Center for Neurorestoration and Neurotechnology. The results in a decline in condition fear response. So this is identical to what I experienced. And I wish that I would have been able to actually pursue this in a more academic and professional environment, but it just wasn't the case. So the leading theory of PTSD posits that the effectiveness of exposure as a therapy is impaired due to ineffective top-down control of the brain's amygdala by the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and other brain regions. Affected individuals thus have impaired safety learning and memory, which in healthy people is supported by intact brain function, Frank says. So transcranial direct current stimulation, which involves administering a constant, low, pain-free electrical current to a part of the brain, is well suited to potentially augment trauma-focused exposure therapy, Frank says. The non-invasive current may boost neural activity, facilitating top-down control by the ventromedial prefrontal cortex to improve safety learning. Essentially,
so does that basically mean that that part of the brain that is needed to kind of keep yourself calm is impaired, and so you can't even really repair yourself because of that, and
correct.
So that kind of jumpstarts that.
Correct. In fact, if they mention it, they might mention this, but patients that are suffering from PTSD who have taken LSD have basically had their brains hot-wired and their safety systems reactivate, and they learn how to deal with the fact that the event that took place is no longer taking place, and their coping mechanisms activate.
Of course, we're not condoning anybody taking that.
No, you have to do it under medical treatment, and there's no reason. If you do it wrong, you can exacerbate the problem, because if you are suffering from PTSD and you're in an uncontrolled environment and you self-medicate, you can actually cause it because there's nothing there to protect you. So you may activate your fight or flight response
and not have anybody there to work through it with
to mitigate it. Correct.
Yeah.
So it says it can be difficult for patients to talk about their personal trauma over and over, and that's one common reason why participants drop out. The VR exposure tends to be much more easier for people to handle because they're basically in a protected environment and safety controls are in place that if anything gets too out of hand, it can be shut down immediately. And I would suspect that the simple shock of closing down a VR space would be enough to jar somebody out of a PTSD environment if they are suffering at that particular moment. So they say in just 2 weeks, the combination of electric stimulation plus VR treatment accelerated a process that happens normally during prolonged exposure therapy, but usually takes around 12 weeks to show effects. So a 6 times reduction in...
I mean, that's very positive.
Yeah,
because I think depending on the level, I mean, people can be very debilitated.
It can be.
If they're at a high level of PTSD.
Yep. So now I'm curious if my assumptions are accurate. So I'm probably going to end up going down a rabbit hole with this. So it's very, very low frequent or low power transcranial direct current stimulation. You can actually buy these things online. I would recommend avoiding it unless it's medically responsible to get it. Okay, let's keep going though. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Peoria police put out recruiting poster telling recruits to come play Call of Duty in real life, which I think is probably the most despicable way of marketing for police, because policing shouldn't be a freaking game. There is no gamification.
Well, and also isn't Call of Duty all about the violence involved? I mean, it's not like the boring part of police work is really what you want to have happen, right? Like
right.
The
paperwork,
right, exactly. Preventive stuff.
Yeah. Your presence alone should be the reason why people don't abuse society, right? But that's not what this is actually doing. This is telling people to come and treat everybody else as hostile except the cluster of people within your group, right? You're part of a social in-group. Everybody else is a freaking enemy. Call of Duty is a military-like simulator. Your objective is to go into a given space and eliminate everyone there. Perform a
Okay, so
particular
then that's a whole
function.
nother layer of problem too, because I didn't
Correct.
realize it was
It's
specifically military based.
It's military. Well, it's called Call of Duty, and you basically enter a region, you clear it out of enemies. Everybody is a potential combatant. There might be elements where you're not supposed to delete someone, but if you do, really, it's a game. What's the harm? Whatever your thoughts of policing in general in America, the author of this article from TechDirt, they would hope that it would largely be uncontroversial to state that a huge percentage of Americans believe that the police are generally over-militarized and at least slightly a little too trigger-happy, especially when it comes to engaging minority communities. And a lot of people have argued with me about this in the past. And look, if the shoe didn't fit, nobody would be calling it out. Right? But the shoe fits. In minority communities, more people are harmed by police for whatever reason. And I think that it is entirely because there is a combat type situation here where the police feel that the community is going to harm them. And so they act offensively instead of trying to disengage. Yes, there are bad people. Bad people are spawned from the fact that there are not enough opportunities for somebody to meet their particular wants. And so you end and lack of mental health and coping skills, et cetera, et cetera. So people lead a life of crime because they find various reasons to do it. Yes, that happens. But guess what? You build a better mouse, you get better mouse traps. So as we ramp up the level of conflict, you get more and more violent combatants. And now you're treating all of society as a combatant. They're dressed up like the military. They're armed to the teeth like the military. They follow military tactics. The militarization of the police is legit. And you can go down the rabbit hole yourself in regards to who the police forces are hiring, personality types, etc. Well, this article from the Pew 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 department, written by Timothy Gaynor over at techdirt.com.
I didn't think that was actually an article.
No, that's right there from the Pew 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 department. If it was only 2 pew pews, then it would have been cute. But when it's pew pew pew, that means it's on 3-round burst and it's serious. Military grade right there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So pew pew is cute, but pew 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 is not. And then just one long pew 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 is really bad. Things are getting really serious. Anyway, they say here, but if you do understand that there is at some level a problem here, your skin will almost certainly crawl when you see the recruiting poster for the Peoria, Illinois police that they put out on a social media site to try to get young recruits. And there's the picture. Yeah.
Well, and even in the poster, they're playing up the weapons and...
Yeah. That's it. You know, look, I don't want a LARPer as a police officer. I don't want a live action role playing gamer. It says stop playing games and answer the call of duty, join the PPD. Which, even that sounds dystopian, join the PPD. So they say here, imagine just how tone deaf you have to be in the current climate of policing in America to put this poster out. It isn't just tone deaf, it's sociopathy. They're looking to get people who think that policing is a freaking game and a military game to boot, where the only other people on the other side of that weapon are combatants, not citizens, not neighbors. So I'm on board with what this is hinting at, and I haven't even read all of the article. It says it's probably a good move. They say Police Chief Eric Echevarria eventually took the post down and apologized in a way that will say does ring through as genuine. The article states as a quote, "It was never my intention to offend any of the community members with a recruitment flyer that was posted in their Facebook page yesterday. It was simply a recruitment image that they thought would appeal and connect to a younger generation. They take ownership of this and apologize. Our goal is to recruit the best and most qualified officers for this police department in the most caring and respectful way." Okay, I accept the fact that they're apologizing, and it does ring genuine. The problem here, though, is that the sociopathy of this was still present. Nobody thought, oh, look, let's military gamify policing. And appeal or not,
Exactly.
it
If
shouldn't.
they want to appeal to gamers, it should have been something that was like Farmville or something. I know that doesn't connect very well with police
Right.
responsibilities, but something that's not violent. And
Yeah. Do something other than what you just did. Hold on a second. Sorry, I'm trying to fix something while I'm doing the show live because I got logged out of my document. Okay, well, anyway, quite a distraction of what policing should be. So hopefully nobody else thinks like this, but I guarantee you somebody's going to call them up and go, "Hey, did you get a lot of action out of this?" They're going to go, "Oh yeah, a ton." And they're going to do it too. Yeah.
well,
Policing.
they're also going to get recruits from this that are not necessarily the right audience.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody thinks that policing and Call of Duty is the same, they should be nixed from the program, not encouraged.
True. And while I'm not somebody who thinks that video games are bad, I mean they're clearly different than real life. I'm not sure everybody out there thinks the same way.
Yeah, and that's my problem. A person with the right coping skills and faculties will say a game is a game, it's not real life. But a person that is ill prepared to be a police officer will say Call of Duty is just like real life and I want to go shoot shit up. They're basically qualified immunity away from committing crimes against humanity until they're charged. And that just means navigating the procedures adequately. I just watched a video of a person being, I'll just say deleted. When an officer answered a call for domestic violence, went into the apartment, deleted somebody, but never identified themselves as a police officer. Shined a flashlight in their eyes, didn't identify themselves. When the person tried to get out of the way, they were eliminated. So if somebody has power and not the right mental fortitude to do the policy and procedure activities, that's what you're going to end up with. And gamifying it, even in the slightest, ho ho, this is just trying to identify with the youth of today. No. Let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Extended reality workouts usher in an immersive era of virtual fitness on VR headsets. Now, we talked about this recently. I didn't really buy into it in a certain sense. Gamifying exercise, I think, is great, but there was one video where, or not a video, it was a demonstration of an app that would have been in VR tied to a service for exercise. And I said, well, this is kind of goofy. Who wants to do yoga in VR when they can just do yoga and see it on a TV screen or something, right? Who wants to put a VR headset on and sit there and,
right,
do cat and cow and what are the child's pose and
tree pose,
tree, and what's the one where is that tree where you're on one leg with your
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I don't see people wanting to do that. Maybe if it's in an environment where they're surrounded by trees and all of that kind of stuff, which, hold on to that. So extended reality workouts usher in an immersive era of virtual fitness on VR headsets. So extended reality is bringing immersive, personalized workout experiences to the fitness industry. Leaders at four fitness brands told Business Insider their extended reality services help them reach new users. So the article is over at Business Insider, and Diana Umana is the author. See, now they're on exercise equipment with a VR headset on.
Right. So I wonder if they're, I guess the person cycling, or maybe they're cycling, are they actually cycling through a scene or something?
But then they're doing something with their hands. When you're disconnected from reality, see, now this is extended reality, so it might have pass through and they're seeing the real world around them. But okay, I guess you're going to have some tech savvy people, but you're going to be running around. Your kinetics are going to be different. This
Yeah,
bouncing
I
weight
think
on
the
your
weight
head,
thing is going to be an issue. Yeah.
right? So it's not just me. But I love the idea of this. If it was just VR glasses or augmented reality glasses, but it says extended reality, which I think is more immersive, only in the sense of VR glasses require you to use pass through, and it's not like augmented reality glasses. So the article is part of the Build It series about digital tech and innovation trends that are disrupting industries. So they say in the summer of 2018, Rachel Z, who goes by the alias Otterworldly online, they go by the alias Otterworldly online, started streaming herself playing mixed reality fitness game Beat Saber. Videos showcase her virtual saber skills as she slices digital blocks at the beat of songs like Blackpink's Kill This Love. And the gamified, competitive nature of virtual reality fitness apps transform their workout routine, she told Business Insider. They provide variety, motivation, ability to track progress, and keep engaged and consistent, which is great. But you're also a streamer of VR content. Not everybody has the ability to sit there and do this for hours on end. So shifting perceptions of fitness technology. Puma this year partnered with Meta Quest 3 to launch immersive mixed reality workouts in the metaverse. People with Meta Quest headset can participate in virtual exercises, including boxing and Zumba. So, again, I really do like the idea of this. I think this is, let me see, they might talk about some more stuff.
Oh, it talks about the size of the headsets, though.
Yeah, so one deterrent, however, is the look and feel of the MetaQuest headset. Its size makes it cumbersome, but the Dashcop told Business Insider he expects the headsets to become less bulky and eventually be like a pair of glasses you're wearing, in 10 years. Now, that's not true. The X Reels are lightweight. There's another one by Immersed called, I can't remember. But those two are lightweight, but they're augmented reality glasses, not fully VR glasses. So they say adapting to consumer needs, but I don't think that there is enough exercise.
I think that's called visor, by the way.
Oh, visor. Yes, thank you. So the I don't think that there's a market big enough to support exercise as a huge sector in VR. There are people that are going to be interested in it, but they're tech savvy people, or they've found some type of affinity for VR based exercise. But I love the idea of it. I just don't want it to be in, I don't like the idea of it being in VR because it pulls you away from actual reality. You don't see the world around you as it should be. But I'm really curious. I haven't tried a VR workout, or I should say an extended reality workout. I've only done VR. Like I've played boxing games. I've done climbing games. Exercise.
I guess I
games.
wonder what the difference is for this versus just, say, watching something on a TV screen and exercising.
To me, It doesn't seem like there's anything other than immersion. But I don't think that people really care for immersion when they're exercising. They want to exercise. Who is going to be working on, like, for instance, weight training? I don't want anybody doing weight training with a VR headset on.
No, it seems like there's a safety element.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with making exercise fun, but I don't know. It just seems like this could be an issue. Plus, I don't like the kinetics of it with the large headsets. But if that's through smaller glasses, maybe that'll be a non-issue.
And I really don't like. Okay, so this is anomalous, right? They're using a person who's just an outlier in the grand scheme of things, right? This Leanne Pedante, head of fitness at Supernatural, said that a person struggled with their weight and used a wheelchair to get around. She said that taking the exercise classes on Supernatural's platform helped them work toward using a walker. That's the kind of stuff that's happening in VR. But that could have happened in any environment, as the person's motivation is really the key ingredient in there, you know? So,
Right,
and there,
VR just happened to be what they used, but it wasn't the only way to get there.
that right there is the thing, the core ingredient here. Cole acknowledged that while some people lack enthusiasm for or don't trust VR because it's still a relatively new technology, he believes that the perceived limitations are more problematic than the actual limitations, and people will try VR for themselves to find out. But VR is the problem. If it pulls you out of what the world is actually protecting you from, you're lifting weights. You have to be keenly aware of the reality of lifting weights. If you are running, I'm moving my arms. If you are running, you have to be keenly aware of the horizon in your footfalls, because if your eyes, ears, and feet don't all align, you will immediately go out of balance and smash into the treadmill and shoot across the gym. If you're on a bike, then it's really not that big of a deal, because all you're doing is sitting there pedaling in place, but you're balanced and you're straight. If the terrain shifts and you start leaning, you can actually fall right out of the damn thing. It's not like you're strapped in with a seatbelt. So, I mean, there are some serious real world ramifications of full VR exercise. In fact, even the boxing ones that I do in VR, you have to have room scale VR borders, right? So you can make a very small space, just a circle around you, and you can do this boxing, but you have to stay immediately in that space. If you have a too small of a room and you set it up, you could be punching the wall in short order, because you actually move around in the boxing environment. So you have to be careful in VR. There are some checks and balances in it. Like, as you approach the border, it lights up and tells you you're real close. But if you have debris on the ground, or if you get out of balance, you're going to fall over. So, I don't know. It's not ready for prime time by any stretch. Augmented reality would be a greater benefit, I think. And even in that vein, I think it's limited. VR really is the best solution to provide training about how to do something. But once you've trained, then you need to take those glasses off and get back in touch with reality. But I'm really into it. I mean, I love the whole boxing side of things. I love the climbing side of things. There's zero resistance and there's zero really getting hit. It's really about trying to get just any activity going. And I certainly don't see people. I mean, Beat Saber is a game. It's not an exercise. It's a game. They say it's a fitness game, but that's because you're sitting there moving
There's a
around.
fitness benefit to it, but it's not set up for fitness.
Yeah, it's not a fitness game. It's a game. It's a rhythm game. At that point, you can call anything a rhythm. But Beat Saber actually is like hyperkinetic sometimes.
Yeah, it's very active, I would say.
So, I mean, I like the game, but I don't think it's a fitness game. Okay, let's keep going. The next article is over in Technology Today. The job applicant shut out by AI. Quote, the interviewer sounded like Siri. Uh-oh, I have to be careful. If I say anything, it might activate.
Maybe just say the voice assistant or something if you get to that in the article.
Yeah, there you go. So I just got an alert about tobacco road rivals dueling. I don't like the idea of anything being called tobacco road in the 21st century, for crying out loud. So, job applicants shut out by AI. Employers are letting artificial intelligence conduct job interviews, and candidates are trying to beat the system. I just saw on Reddit somebody got punted out of the hiring process because the automated IQ test rated them 3 digits too low to the threshold. And I was like, well, you kind of dodged one there, bud, because any business that sits there and bases their hiring practice
Yeah,
on an
I
automated
agree.
system of an IQ test,
Like,
you're
I'm
out of
more
your
worried
mind.
that there is an IQ test, not the method by which it's conducted.
Yeah, yeah, and for various reasons, one of which is that IQ tests are notoriously biased. When Ty landed an introductory phone interview with a finance and banking company last month, they assumed that it would be a quick chat with a recruiter and then they'd be on the phone. Ty assumed the recruiter, who introduced herself as Jamie, was human, but then things got robotic. They said that the voice sounded like Siri. Elena Demopoulos, um, over at theguardian.com put the article together. Deck statement says employers are letting artificial intelligence conduct job interviews. Candidates are trying to beat the system. So things got creepy because the voice sounded similar to Apple's what voice assistant.
A voice assistant.
Yeah. Um, Ty, who's 29, lives in the DC metro area, realized that they weren't speaking to a living, breathing person. Their interviewer was an AI system. Jamie asked Ty all the right questions. What's your management style? Are you a good fit for this role? But she wouldn't let Ty fully answer them. After cutting me off, the AI would respond, great, sounds good, perfect, and move on to the next question. After the third or fourth question, and the AI just stopped after a short pause and told me that the interview was completed and someone from the team would reach out. Ty asked that their last name not be used because the current employer doesn't know they're looking for a job.
Well, they do now.
Yikes. No, Ty, I don't think is their real name. They just say don't use their last name, but yeah, I guess everybody with a tie in the workplace is now looking at everybody else.
In a certain industry, right?
Yeah, it was them. So a survey from Resume Builder released last summer found that by 2024, 4 in 10 companies would use AI to talk with candidates. So dystopian. So the human element is lost. So I agree. In
Well,
fact,
okay, it's not just that. Well, and then also is the AI deciding whether the person proceeds. And then what are they doing with that interview? Because I'm guessing it's probably recorded.
and it's training the AI for further advances. So garbage in, garbage out. Because they're being truncated, the responses are being cut off by the AI because they're not responding in time. It's not even a holistic response. So
Mm-mm.
poison pill. Um, so I already know, and I think a lot of people realize that um, when it comes to resumes, that large businesses are using AI to weed through it, filtering out things that automatic. So if you don't meet the minimums, you get filtered out. Now AI is much more um, brutal about it because a human might make a mistake. I've actually looked at resumes and I'll see somebody that just does not in any way, shape, or form meet the minimum requirements, yet they're in the active pool. And you have to look through them and go, nope, you don't meet it. Nope, you don't meet it. But it's a lot of time, particularly when you have 1,000 applicants. So you might make a mistake. You might not make a mistake, but you might make a mistake. AI, if you don't hit it, it's gone. And the person who does the next tier of evaluation is only dealing with those who meet the minimum requirements. So people start gamifying that, putting in keywords that they think will trigger the AI to accept you. But as applicants like Ty know, employers use AI goes beyond being a sounding board. Experts advise applicants to act as though they're speaking to a human during AI-led interviews, although that's easier said than done. Adele Walton, a 24-year-old journalist and content creator from Brighton, England, recently sat through an AI interview that felt extremely unnatural. I expected a person or a panel. When I clicked on the call, they were surprised to enter a chat room with just themselves, and questions would flash on the screen. They'd had 60 seconds to answer. I was looking at how
Oh,
my
that's weird.
face was moving, looking at how I looked on the screen. As someone who struggled with body dysmorphia, I found that my face was unnecessarily a distraction in the interview process. Yeah. So applicants are gaming the system. You build a better mousetrap and better mice show up. And it's the people who are tech savvy that are capable, or not even tech savvy. They do some investigation and they find a tool that allows them to manipulate something. So, a 24-year-old who lives in Atlanta, works in cybersecurity, used AI tools to tailor their resume, write cover letters, even auto apply to jobs. She does this through a program called Massive. It's amazing.
This is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, at some point, I'm guessing that the AI will be the one making the hiring decision. The AI might be the boss of the particular team.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. This is just going down an interesting path.
I got hired by an AI and fired by an AI.
Right. I never met a person.
Yep. I was assigned stuff automatically via email. I was pinged periodically via text, and then ultimately fired. Let's go on to the next article if you don't mind. So the next article is over in RealityHacker. The Oniri Forest VR showcases hyper-realistic graphics and is a standalone on Quest. Oniri Forest aims to deliver hyper-realistic VR environment that runs standalone on Quest. Developed by Oneros, Forest is a free tech demo designed to showcase Oniri, a platform that can convert a highly detailed 3D environment into a Unity scene that can run in real time on standalone VR with no limits of poly count, materials, and lights. The Forest Quest demo features an outdoor environment infused with cyberpunk elements. Interesting. So using Quest 3, they went hands-on with Forest. I'm going to hit play. I do have it muted to the audience, but I'll talk you through it.
So, does that mean it's converting a regular game or a regular place into a VR experience?
Either. So like you can go out into the forest and film it and it'll turn it into a Unity
Oh, okay.
scene. Or you can pull it into a game. But in this particular instance, you're actually in VR and it's a simulation of hyper realistic. I doubt you'd be able to touch any of this stuff without some serious computational effort, which would go well beyond the Quest 3. You'd have to be PC VR or like PlayStation 5. And it's just getting blurry. Whatever. So like all of these objects that it's showing are not something that you can actually manipulate. But
Oh, okay. So it's more for the visual than an actual interactive experience.
Yeah, so you would walk through this, but there's nothing over here that you would be able to work with, probably. I don't know. It says that they went hands-on, but let's go look. Henry Stockdale over at uploadvr.com put the article together, and it looks like this would be something that you can interact with. You might be able to walk up the little steps that are here, but the demo that they show really doesn't cut it. For such a short tech demo, it's worth noting that the Forest requires nearly 1.5 gigs of storage, so the 3D conversion method evidently requires considerable storage space, but it's largely the materials, the textures. So when they put high resolution graphics on a 3D model, that is really large scale, because you can't sit there and simulate the texture of a tree so much as a large high resolution texture wrapped around a 3D model, because anything other than that would be really, really computationally intense. So they don't really say much in this article, but you can go over and check it out. They were impressed by the environmental graphics quality as they moved past the trees and bushes, but distortions became apparent after moving from the designated areas, and render resolution is relatively low. So yeah, as it's the prescribed path, they highlight. It's more about marketing it. If you go off the beaten path, then everything goes low rent and your experience suffers. And even for
Right, so you
something,
might have a pretty minimal game time.
yeah, and this really is just a tech demo. So I can imagine that if what we just witnessed was 2 gigs, yeah, I'm sorry, that's beefy. Considering you might only have 256 gigs of storage, and you might have other games on your Quest, you're going to have to upgrade your Quest in short order. Because like real full games would have significantly more, but this is said to be a short demo. I don't know how long it is or what the full scope is, but if this is the simulation, this is 2 gigs. That's computationally light, but data heavy, and you can't go off the path. So, all right, let's keep going. The next article is over in Technology Today. Anthropic says that its new Claude 3 AI chatbot scores better on key benchmarks than GPT-4. Now, I've been hearing this throughout the week, and frankly, the only reason why I added this here is because good. This is what I want. I want more and more competition. Thank you. I don't know why I do the show. I'll see you later. Hold on. There you. Okay, go ahead. Take it.
Wait a second. Come back there, what?
All right. Hello. So yeah, I just want competition. I want better and better AI, but again, just like those other articles are mentioning it, I want it human-centric. I don't want jobs taken without something happening to enable people to benefit from the usurping of work product. I want humans to be able to benefit from technological innovation taking jobs, not everybody being told you have a choice. You can either be a ditch digger, which is going to get less and less common, by the way, because automation will take those jobs too. And I say that by, ditch digger is basically a low skilled job,
like
that
manual labor. Yes.
Right. But here's the thing about this. Manual labor is not really low skill, depending on what's going on. Some people, sure, they only want to do a certain job. They're not going to work past it. They're not going to do something else. That's what they're into. Fine. That's great. Automation is coming to take those jobs. Then you move up a little bit to some other skill. Automation is coming to take those jobs. And somebody goes, well, I'll tool up and do something else. I'll skill up and do something else. Automation is coming to take those jobs. And you keep on moving people out. And what do you have? You have suffering of society because there are no opportunities, because technology and automation are pushing humanity around. So what I want AI to do is to take all of that work away. But money still needs to go to human beings so that they have a means to make a living and buy a house. And people are giving up on and I'll just say, I'll be American centric. They're giving up on the American dream because they can't afford to buy a house anymore, because a livable wage isn't livable anymore. Maybe in some town somewhere, sure. But not everybody can be a computer science engineer, or software engineer. Not everybody can be a cybersecurity analyst. Not everybody can be a banker. Not everybody can do all of these 4-year plus college.
Right, and those aren't even necessarily safe from automation.
No, because the automation, AI in particular, is a subject matter expert in everything, because it's gobbled up all of the world's knowledge, for $60 million a year. And then that money's going to be made by the company that is scooping up all of that data that humans are generating and posting for free on the internet. Actually, they're paying for it. Humans are paying to go on the internet, and then they're posting their knowledge. So at some point, people are going to get tired
pricing
of that.
ourselves out.
Yeah, you're pricing yourself out. So the battle between AI chatbots is more than a two-horse race. Anthropic, the company that formed by several ex-OpenAI employees, claims its new Cloud 3 language model outperforms ChatGPT and Google's Gemini. Gemini is the NASA missions, and Gemini is this, I suppose. In several key industry benchmarks, it even hit near human levels on some tasks, I guess like spewing bullshit. There are 3 new chatbots under Claude 3 umbrella, including Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. Sonnet powers Claude.ai chatbot and is offered for free with an email sign-in. Meanwhile, Opus is the largest and most powerful LLM. So let's see what Engadget has to say about this. Steve Dent is a reporter for Engadget.com. And they say that the deck statement says that Claude 3's most powerful Opus model has near human abilities in some benchmarks, according to the company. Opus is the largest and most powerful LLM and will be available with a $20 per month subscription via the Claude Pro service. It's also multimodal, so it can work with both text and image inputs, unlike past versions. But I guess Sonnet is the one that powers Claude.ai chatbot.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Haiku does.
And Opus, is part of the Claude Pro. So do they say anything else down here? No, they don't. So these are some great benchmarks, but I really don't want... my problem with benchmarks is you start teaching to the test. This is the objective. All right. But what about the holistic AI that transforms into a sentient AI? If all you're doing is going to this, then you're using the knowledge that exists to teach to that test. I don't know. I just have a hard time with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Plus, it's not... I don't know.
What does
it's
Haiku
not
do,
like
damn it?
GPT is like at 2% and Claude is at like 80%. I mean...
Yeah, incremental increases and stuff. Some of them are pretty significant. Undergraduate level knowledge, a 7% increase. That's in between Sonnet and Claude 3 Opus.
Right, but look, it's lower
compared
than
to GPT-4.
But better than GPT.
Graduate level reasoning is at 50%, but maybe it's because GPT-4 didn't focus on graduate level. Well, the next iteration of GPT 4.5 is going to be, a tremendous increase. So, yeah, some of it's pretty significant. So, but that's fine. Y'all keep fighting, providing better and better AI. But what are we going to do when we have a technology that is superior to humans in all ways, can be put in a bot that's superior to humans in all ways, and capable of doing all of the jobs that humans can do, except it does it better in all ways? Yeah, it's going to be wildly expensive. Only the rich are going to be able to have it, unless the prices are reduced to the point where regular Joes can get it. But then what? I send my sentient AI to go and do my work? Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Never mind. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Mobile. AI might not be the future, AI might not be the future of fast food drive-through lanes after all. So apparently this is over at gizmodo.com. Angela L. Pagan is the author of this. And it says, the deck statement says, customers and restaurants are unhappy with artificial intelligence help at the drive-through. Yeah, I can buy into that.
Who could have predicted this?
All of us here in ohmTown, I think. It's almost as bad as a bad speaker and somebody that can't hear you because they've got horrible equipment on the other side of that speaker. Sorry, what did I just order? Really? This is a picture of Checkers, and it has a... I have to look at that. There's a Checkers outside of ohmTown. Might have to swing by and see if they're using an AI voice assistant.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So the article originally appeared in The Takeout. It's not a source for us, but thetakeout.com is where it was originally housed. And yeah, so apparently some fast food restaurants have been experimenting with artificial intelligence, and we've talked about that before. Apparently, people are really upset about it now. So many restaurant chains have tested AI drive-through lanes, but the recent struggle of one AI company illustrated the potential shortcomings. And so Presto Automation supplies AI solutions, specifically voice recognition technology, to a number of fast food chains, including Checkers and Rally's, which is really the same company, Del Taco, and both Carl's Jr. and Hardee's. Presto's voice bots are in use across 145 Hardee's, Carl's Jr.'s, Wiener Schnitzels, which I haven't seen since California, restaurants as is February 1st, 2024, so only 145. It's not a target-rich environment. Restaurant Business reports that the company also supplies digital ordering tables to casual restaurant chains such as Applebee's, Chili's, Red Lobster. All right. Well, people aren't interested in the AI. Presto's technology does use AI voice recognition to take down orders in the drive-through lane, but a significant portion of the process still requires an actual employee's involvement, probably like processing it to make sure it's accurate. Oh yeah, that's exactly it. Still the responsibility of the employee to input the order and ensure its accuracy. Oh, God. So you have the lag of a bot.
Well, I can see why people don't like it, right? It's already full of friction as it is. This is just adding another layer.
Yep. The voice assistant technology has gone through multiple iterations, but even its most advanced version is still only completing 30% of orders without the help of a human being. What a waste. That's just too much friction. So, yeah. Of course, Presto's leadership is optimistic about the future. Because if the company can sit there and go, yeah, we'll pay you a fraction of what it costs to pay a human being who I have to schedule, we'll take 80% accuracy.
Right.
The complaints are cheaper than paying a livable wage to a human being. Again, we need a treatment for greed. And before anybody gets really bent out of shape about it, I'm a capitalist. I believe in charging value for value. So if anybody gets really bent out of shape about something that I said today, understand it's actually, I'm trying to talk about bettering society. Happy to talk about it though. Come and talk to us here at twitch.tv/ohmtown. All right, so let's go on to the last article for tonight's show, Reality Hacker. So the last article is actually in Reality Hacker. Sony's upcoming MR or mixed reality headset could point the way for controllers on Vision Pro, but I'm going to nip this in the bud and say unless the Sony interface is Bluetooth compatible and the Apple Vision Pro suddenly decides that it's going to work with a Sony input device, unless Apple comes up with the input device and wants to do battle with Sony in terms of IP litigation and treading
Right,
too
like
close.
some threat of copyright or trademark or any kind of
or patent or whatever.
patent infringement. Yeah.
I don't think this is going to happen, but I'm going to talk about it. So I'm just going to jump straight on over to roadtovr.com. Scott Hayden is the author, and they're showing this input device that is, you hold it in your hand, kind of like a handheld mouse. It has a touch surface. It has the ability to track in all directions, 3 axis. So probably not 6, but 3. Maybe it in any orientation it understands, so that you can attach to something and rotate it in all 6 axes. So Vision Pro's mixed reality headset with a bit of an identity crisis. While it can technically play fully immersive VR content without motion controllers, many of the VR games you'll find on the Quest simply won't make the jump to the $3,500 device, which is instead being pitched as a productivity machine capable of running the standard fleet of iOS apps in addition to Vision OS native apps. That said, the Vision Pro can only handle one main display, and then it can pop up apps around its perimeter, its fringe, but it only handles one main display. Which makes it a $3,500 device with zero functionality in most productivity environments.
You know what I like to have when I spend $3,500? Nothing to do with it.
Nice. So it says, okay, maybe not an identity crisis as such, but Apple made it clear marketing decisions that Vision Pro by omitting its controllers instead of focusing on hand and eye tracking input. So that's how it works. You basically look at something and you go like that, and it does something. And unfortunately, if you look 1 inch left or right of where you want to activate something, it activates it when you pinch. If you want to type something, you have to remember virtually where something is, because if you move your eyes down, it will start typing something somewhere else or not actually function. If you want to delete something, you have to look straight at what you're trying to delete, and holy crap, am I going to be able to find that delete key without oh, I just deleted something else. Yeah, it's all kinds of wonky, but maybe I'm doing it wrong, right? It's not me, and I'm watching other people, because I'm not going to spend $3,500 on the device. Apple, if you want to send it to me, Mayor Watt, we'll take a look at it. Get in touch. So at CES 2024 in January, Sony unveiled a Snapdragon-based standalone mixed reality. It's still unnamed mixed reality headset. I just don't see these as mixed reality, because these are full virtual reality headsets with
Right, that
pass-through.
looks like VR.
It is. It just happens to have a pass-through video option, so they call it mixed reality, but it's fully immersive. You're looking at a simulation, a camera representation that's lagged by nanoseconds still of what the camera sees, and it's at camera resolution, not human vision.
Okay.
So it says a flip-up visor, so you can just flip it up and you're not in VR, but you're not also in AR or mixed reality either. And a unique pair of controllers that aim to appeal to the sort of professionals Apple.
You know what you're in?
Wants.
Reality.
You're in reality, yeah. So I guess mixed reality is what it is, because you can put it down and you're in VR, or put it up and you're in reality. So the ring lets you select items, anchor them firmly in your hand, while the so-called pointing controller enables what Sony calls stable and accurate pointing in virtual spaces with optimized shape and button layouts for efficient and precise operation. So it's basically what do they call it? Oh God, a space mouse. You can hold it in 3-dimensional space and move it around, and the gyroscope and other sensors and touch sensor and buttons and stuff like that all function in the VR space. I think that it would be great. In fact, no, I wouldn't prefer it over what I've got now, because I'll just show you all. So this is a Pico 4 controller, and so it has buttons, and a directional pad. If I move it, it'll activate my VR headset, I think, and 2 triggers. And this has much more functionality than this little thing that you stick your finger through, that looks like that, right? Well, that right there. So it allows you to drag and drop and grab things and rotate them. I mean, I think that it's great. The other thing in his hand is the ring, not that little controller, that little space mouse.
So you have to have 2 things to use that?
It's 2 different input devices, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what it's actually going to end up costing. It says the ring lets you select items, and Other controllers is like the pointer device. So they say, why are controllers so important in the first place? Vision Pro's hand tracking is some of the best and likely evolve over the handset's life cycle, but all the same caveats apply to Vision Pro's optical hand tracking as they do in modern XR headset. That's to say, there's only so much that Apple can do without controllers. Yeah, hand tracking doesn't have any force feedback or haptic feedback. It can actually lose its connection so that if the cameras can't see you or the angle of attack is different, that a slight twitch can activate something, but it's not really activating. Like, I'm moving my hands below the camera. If my camera doesn't see it, the camera that's on the Vision Pro doesn't see it, it won't activate anything. So I have to have my hands in the right area. And, that's why controllers are great.
Seems like too much imprecision. Like, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, it's fiddly. Yeah, and everybody's going to get burnt out on it. I haven't looked at what the return rate is anymore. I don't know. There were some problems with the cracking and stuff like that as well. I don't know. But I see Vision Pro as a consumption device, but it is the priciest damn consumption device that I've seen in a long time.
Apparently they're below 1% return rate right now.
Yeah, I remember hearing that as well. I don't know how old that report is, but
February 28th.
Yeah, and not too far. Yeah, I think that's when we actually last talked about this. And in the cracking, I don't know what all is involved with that, but that's a production thing. But this article is talking about these input devices and Apple Vision Pro not having one other than your hands. I don't see Apple extending its controller options to this, but maybe it does. It's not like any of this is a big surprise to Apple, though, or the developers making native Vision OS apps. The use of the headset's 3D spatial abilities. For now, Apple wants Vision Pro to be more face computer than gaming console, but also more bottom tier iPad than Mac Pro, at least in terms of hardcore industry apps it can support. Problem is, it's a $3,500 bottom tier iPad that you can't do stuff with like the iPad. You can't do everything in the Vision Pro that you can do on an iPad.
It's more expensive and it does less.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, it would be great as a replacement for a desktop because I can just put it on, but it pulls me out of reality. I won't be able to really see the rest of the world. It's a virtual thing because it's camera pass-through. Yeah. I think that they should just buy X-Real and make a real augmented reality headset. But look at that. Wow, it's an hour and a half already for the show. Jeepers. Time flies. Okay, well, that's it. We always pile back into the party bus and drive down Main Street. Ta-da! And then I'll just hit refresh. I don't know if we've gotten anything new. Nah, not really. So we'll be augmenting this with additional
realities,
sources. Yeah, because I think that, we need it because it's a really interesting subject. And we've got a whole show wrapped around it. So that said, I am Mayor Watt. Up there is a sentient AI that I think I just spooked by saying, up there's the sentient AI before I say, that's ohmtown.com over there.
Well, good night, hometown citizens. Be sure to tune in shortly for our next episode of Wanted. And then tomorrow we'll be back with another 3 shows.
Yeah, we're going to do 8:30 for Wanted tonight. It's about as fast as I can reset. Okay, see you in a little bit. Why is it only this show that doesn't do its outro? I think the simulation is broken. Bye-bye, everybody.